Hi everyone, welcome back, and in this video I'll be giving you some information on creating release plans using story maps. So if you don't know what story maps are, I have taken a video on that, so you can click on the link given in the description box and you can take a look at what story maps are. So it will be a little more helpful for you to correlate with this video. So now let's get into it. So release planning is an approach to plan an increment of the product instead of releasing all features. Now in Agile, the main aim is to continuously deliver value to customers, okay, or your clients. So you don't want to take a long time and plan out your entire project and give it in at the end to the customers. You want to constantly keep delivering value to them, and that's why release planning is very important, to plan out what value is going to be delivered at what time to the customer. Okay, and if you see, release plans is created based on the importance of features, demand by the client, team's velocity and user story status, etc. So in order to plan a release, okay, you first need to take into account the importance of features and the demand by the client. So sometimes for your product, there might be really core features that need to be delivered in order for the exact value of the product to be understood. Okay, so those are the core features. So without those must have features, there's no use in giving out nice to have features to the clients. So you need to take into account the important features that are yet to be delivered, the demand by the clients. Sometimes, though some features are not very important, the customers and clients might be wanting those features out. So at that time, you need to take into account their opinions and the demand by the clients. The next one is the team's velocity. So every organization would have different release planning durations. Some releases might be every 2 months. Some organizations might plan their releases every month. It can be every quarter. It can be half yearly, depending on the organization's release planning decisions and their plan. The team's velocity also needs to be taken into account, because depending on what time they have in hand and the resources also that they have in hand, how much of work can be completed. So based on that, you will be able to plan out your releases. So I've taken a video on velocity also, so you can click on the link given in the description box again, and you can view that. Even Burndown charts is another useful resource that you can take a look at to view how teams plan for next releases. That's something you can look at. And user story statuses. Now in Agile, we have user stories. So if you're going to have half-baked user stories, the business analysts on their end, they are not sure of what the feature is supposed to, do, what is supposed to be solved, then if that's the case, you cannot add in those features. So whichever user story is, ready for development, all those features can be taken into or ready for, the release. It can be taken into account and you can plan out your release. So it's all about incrementally you develop your product and you keep providing value to the customers. And this particular approach is what is called as, in order for this to work perfectly, you need a release plan. So now let's look at the team involved in release planning. So the very first roles that are needed is the product owner and the business analyst. So sometimes there can be a product owner and business analyst in a project, or it can be just a product owner or just a business analyst. So whatever is the combination of the team, the product owner or the business analyst is very key for the release planning, because they are responsible to set the context and the product vision. Okay, so it's very important that the team knows what they are solving, what type of a problem they are solving, and what type of value they are expected to give the customer. So based on that, when everyone are on the same page, it's more easier to work for that particular release without any confusions. The next person involved are the stakeholders. So stakeholders can be internal stakeholders of the product. It can also be the external stakeholders, the clients. So based on whatever feedback they give, whatever features they demand, whatever they feel they need for the next release, you need to take into account their opinions, and you need to plan out your release. So they are also very vital for a release planning. And the third most important team is the technical team, because the technical team, they need to sit down and they need to analyze. Okay, they are responsible to check for technical feasibility. Okay, because no matter whatever you plan, unless it is feasible technically, only then you'll be able to successfully deliver the value to the customers. So the technical team is very important in order to plan the entire release so that it is successfully delivered to the customer. So this is the planning team. Now let's look at how do we build this release plan using a story map. So if you would have watched the video that I had taken on story maps, this is how a story map would look at. So to give you an overview, you have your customers, which are generally the personas for your product, and then you have here the higher level here, which is, they can be themes or they can be goals. Then the next level over here can be epics or the steps to complete that goal, and every epic would have different user stories or tasks. So that would be listed down in your story map. So usually if you see, the story maps are not so small, they would take up maybe an entire wall also. That's how your story maps are built. So now you have your story map, and if you see a story map, when you list down all your tasks or user stories, it's going to be listed down in a prioritized manner. So if you see here, the lighter colored blue is all the highly prioritized user stories or tasks, and the darker ones are the less prioritized one. Okay, so now when you have all this with you, now we need to sit and plan what needs to go in your release, what needs to be categorized and prioritized. So now, since we know that all the lighter color tasks are going to be a priority and the darker ones are of lesser priority, these priorities could have been given based on the features importance. It could be based on what the client has wanted. So based on all that, this priority would have been set by the team. So now, in order to create your release plan, it's very simple. What teams do is, all their first priority items are pushed into one release. Then you create a slice over here and you bring down the less prioritized items. And then you create your second release. So all these items come into your first release and the less prioritized one comes into your second release. Now it's not needed to split up your releases into just two. For an example I had given, so based on your team and how you want to plan out your releases, you can have n number of releases that you can plan out. But the idea is to slice it down. Now you might ask me, why should we slice down this horizontally and not vertically? Okay, so if you see here, you have your entire story map which covers different personas and their goals, different epics, and we have sliced it down horizontally rather than vertically. Okay, so this is a common question, but I'll tell you why it's always recommended to go horizontally and not vertically. So you look at this image over here. Imagine the entire requirement given by the client was to build a transport, okay, that would allow them to commute from one place to another, plus they should be able to carry some goods along with them. So now if you see in release 1, we have a particular vehicle over here that allows the user to travel from one place to another, and also there is provision to load goods along with them during travel. So if you see in the second release, there is something where you have like a container, and the container is put in order to protect the goods from bad weather or from damage. Okay, so these are the two releases. If you notice from release 1 and release 2, in the first release, though we don't have hi-fi features of a container and weatherproof and damage proof, still the customer is able to travel from one place to another, and they are able to carry goods along with them. Okay, so this is a value that we have provided in release 1. And in release 2, of course, again the customer is able to travel from one place to another. They are able to take goods along with them, but the extra value provided is that it's going to provide a weatherproof as well as it's going to protect against any possible damage. So whatever be your release, you always have to keep releasing value to the customers constantly. So this is how a horizontal slice will help you to achieve this goal. But if you're going to take a vertical slice, okay, look at this example over here. The vertical slice would, you would, if you're going in vertical slicing, you will be planning all your first or developing the wheels first, which you'll be giving in release 1. The second release, you might be planning all the doors, and in the third release only you will be giving them a vehicle that they would actually be able to use. So now in release 1, you're not providing any value. With the wheels, they won't be able to travel from one place to another. They will not be able to carry goods. Second release, no value. They would not be able to achieve their goal. Only in the third release, they are able to achieve and get the value out of the product. So this is what vertical slices do, and that's why it's a drawback. So whichever release you're providing, you need to give the customer a flavor and an experience of your end product. It should have a value to the customer. So to end it up, with Agile, with all the Agile principles, the end is to constantly deliver feedback and to constantly delight your customers. So that's what, if you see in some examples, they would say creating releases is like creating slices of a cake. So the cake would have different layers, and then when you take out a slice from that, you're actually taking a portion of all the layers where the particular person would be able to release, and they would be able to enjoy all the layers of that particular cake by taking a slice out. So that's how your releases also need to be given. So here also, if you're giving, if the entire product was supposed to be a pizza, you would not be giving just the crust first, then you would not be giving them the toppings. You would want to provide them a look, a feel. You want to give them the delight of enjoying the value of the product at every stage and at every release. Okay, so that's how the release planning is supposed to be taken, and that's how that's the main aim and goal of the release planning. So this is a little bit of information how now release plans are created using story maps. So if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and also do share your feedbacks. Thank you.